introduce tonight's speaker, Don Barron. He joined us a couple of years ago, just about December of 22, and he's been collecting stamps and covers since the early 70s. He's a member of the Reading Stamp Collectors Society, the American First Day Cover Society, and APS, an art club, and has always focused on collecting military, aerospace, space, and science stamps. So Don, you're in good company tonight with all the Houston people here. You also remember Don did a presentation last year on the Toni Morrison opening day for the first day of issue that he went to. He's from Douglasville, Pennsylvania, with his wife, Michelle, their golden doodle, who's Dallas, 2 grown children, married, who live nearby. He's pop to his grandson, Emmett, who's going to be a future stamp collector or else, right? And you can find him in the fall at almost every Penn State home football game. So a little more for Penn State tonight in our audience. On March 9th, he attended the first day of issue ceremony for stamp honoring the Tamaqua, PA train station. The event was part of 5 stamps also celebrating Union Terminal in Cincinnati, Santa Fe and San Bernardino, Main Street Station in Richmond, Virginia, and Point of Rock Station in Maryland. Don will share the program and excitement of seeing these events personally. He'll also share what he could research about the other stations and any other events. And I have had the pleasure of looking at his PowerPoints, and he's done a lot of work on these. So I think you'll find a lot of very good information. So with that, please join me in welcoming Don to our meeting tonight in our program. And then if we could all kind of mute, Don, you can share your screen and we'll get it working.
Sure thing. So I'm going to put it on screen too, and I'm going to share this out. So hi, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. I wanted to talk to you this evening about an event that I attended in my hometown and my experience as a new member. So I want to cover a few things, and feel free to interrupt if you have any questions as I move through my slides. The way I plan on doing this today is in several steps, and hopefully you will find this everything entertaining. And if I can give you at least 1% of something you may not know about the stamps, the event, or some history, I feel I achieved my goal for the evening. So tonight, what we're going to cover on my list that I have is how the railroad stamps came to be, the stamps themselves. My focus will be on the Tamaqua station with an understanding of Tamaqua, my home depot, Tamaqua's history, the train station, and its battle for survival. And just to let you know, all these train stations have all had a battle to survive, and they've all been quite successful at it. Some history on the station and its importance then and now. Tamaqua stamp events, a little bit about, a little bit more on that. The main railroad station event and the other stamps. The official stamp release event, mainly in Cincinnati, Ohio, Union, Ohio terminal, Point of Rocks, Maryland terminal, Richmond, Virginia Main Street station, and finally San Bernardino, Santa Fe station in California. Maybe a little bit about the first day covers, some that I created and some others that I purchased that I thought were really cool, and what's available out there, like in eBay and from other collectors. Other international train and rail station stamps, and I'll just briefly touch on that. What's available in Philatelic, and then so I'd like to give a shout out all aboard and get things moving along. All right. I also have a couple of videos too. I'm going to try to do them. I didn't get a chance to test them with the group, but hopefully they'll come through and everybody will be able to hear them. So, all right. So America has always had a long fascination with railroads and railroad stations. Since its inception, almost every rail line and train had to have a station to begin and end its journey. In the 1720s, wooden railroads called wagonways were built to move cargo and coal from Canada and New York as early as the French and Indian War era. The station has long been a gateway for travel, commerce, and even mail delivery through history. And what better way to honor them than through a postage stamp from the Postal Service? So how did this selection come about? How did these 5 stations come about to be depicted on a U.S. Postage Forever stamp? To start, each year the Postage Service Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee meets quarterly and recommends stamp subjects to the U.S. Postmaster General. Currently, Louis DeJoy, our 75th U.S. Postmaster General, is involved with this selection. I think the header here on this station kind of says it all. Railroad stations, historic railroad stations of America, and the one-trip ticket that they added to this really makes it cool with the train stations in an array here of 20 stamps total. So the railroad stations feature 5 architectural gems that continue to play important roles in their communities, including the Tamaqua station in Pennsylvania. The 2023 station program features a broad range of subject designs. These miniature works of art highlight our unique American culture and offer a broad selection for those looking to collect stamps or send their mail around the nation or the world, as the U.S. Postal Service Stamp Service Director William Glick mentioned. All right. So what I would like to do is I'm going to pull down a little video of this, and let's see how this works, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it. So, and if you can't, let me know or raise your hand or something like that. So let me get it started.
I can say I'm not hearing sound. I
You're
don't
not
know
hearing
if I'm
sound?
the only one.
No, no sound.
No sound? Yeah, I was afraid of that.
But we can see the closed caption.
Right, there's a closed caption. Yep.
Old-fashioned photo album with the title Historic
about now?
Railroad Stations of the United States and a
Yep,
header
got it.
that features a drawing of a train and a one-trip ticket. We're pleased to present our 2023 Forever Stamps honoring America's historic railroad stations. Each stamp in the pane of 20 is an illustration of a single station. The 1874 Tamaqua station in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania. The 1875 Pointer Rocks station in Pointer Rocks, Maryland. The 1901 Main Street station in Richmond, Virginia. The 1918 Santa Fe station in San Bernardino, California. And the 1933 Union Terminal in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Our landmark is just breathtaking, and little kids walk in the front door and they all kind of run into each other because they look up at the ceiling and their mouths fall open and their eyes get really big. You know, people just walk in this building and they're breathless at the grandeur of it all. Cincinnati Union Terminal played a vital role during World War II. And there are thousands of stories. It gives me goosebumps when we hear them, because we know that lots of people have come through this train station at some form or another in their lives. I think the dynamic about understanding the history of rail travel in the United States, we have the second busiest freight yard in the country behind me right now. And so it's still playing a vital role as we are moving people and goods across the United States, and celebrating the investment and the design and the beauty of these railroad stations is so important to these different communities. And it's just so spectacular that the Postal Service is producing this railroad stamp collection, and it just coincides perfectly with the 90th anniversary of this building. So we're thrilled to be able to be the place to kick off the stamps and really celebrate it. But I think it's going to drive a lot of interest and enthusiasm among people who love architecture, people who are railroad fanatics, and certainly within the stamp collecting community as well.
They're available at your post office and at USPS.com.
All right. So that's that one. Let me continue. Maybe everybody can still hear me, correct? Just right where, okay. Okay, so the actual design came from Down the Street Designs in Los Angeles, who digitally painted all 5 of these stamps for the United Postal Service. You can see some of the ideas that they had for them with some of the sketches that they threw out there. And I thought, these guys put a little bit of work of it. I just knowing the Tamaqua station and stuff like that, there's another view right here of it, which I think any one of them would have been really good. But the ones that they chose, I think, were top notch. So, okay. Celebrating the rights to rails, and I have a comparison here of photographs of each of them, and you can see what they actually look like compared to the stamps themselves. So the research we initially focused on the architectural and geographic diversity of the community. Also wanted to make sure that we included some smaller towns and smaller stations, according to Derry Noyes, the Postal Service art director. Another criterion on the list was stations people could visit. So over the course of our search, we began focusing on more historic stations, and it turns out that all 5 of the stations honored in the stamp are all listed in the National Registry of Historic Places. 3 of these stations ended up being in the Northwest Mid-Atlantic, but they were able to keep a variety of styles and sizes. In this slide, you'll see the artist's rendition of the station, the photograph for each, and you can see how the artist highlighted some key features for each one of them. So from right to left, we have the Point of Rocks, Maryland. It's a Victorian structure station with its 4-story triangular Gothic revival tower and pyramidal peaked roof. Next,
Don, you muted somehow.
okay. Did you hear me about Point of Rocks?
Yeah.
Okay. So
But
the next,
I cannot see your screen.
oh, this I dropped the okay, hold on.
Yeah.
How about now?
Good.
Okay. All right. So let me go back to this. So next to the Point of Rock station is in Richmond, Virginia, the Main Street station with its ornate domed clock tower. After that is the San Bernardino, California, Santa Fe station with its 4 domed towers. Then the Tamaqua, Pennsylvania train station is a remnant of the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad line, and it's red brick exterior and chimney and center flagpole in the middle. And that's always something, even when I was a kid, that kind of stood out until they finally closed it down. That flagpole was always there. The last stamp and one of the largest historic train stations and the official host of the 2023 first day of issue ceremony on March 9th was the Cincinnati, Ohio Union Terminal with its historic Art Deco structure and beautiful gardens. Derry Noyes of the U.S. Postal Service art director was the art project director with down the street designs and responsible for the paint's digital illustrations, topography, and overall design. Okay. So from this right here, I think I skipped a slide. Oh, okay. You can see our beautiful train station, Tamaqua, okay? I'm gonna let you find out a little bit about Tamaqua, or introduce you a little bit to Tamaqua. I don't know if you've ever been up that way, but here's a brief history of it. Okay, so Tamaqua is a unique name, and it's the only town in the world, pretty much, with that name that's out there. No other state, no other country has ever adopted that name. The name comes from a Native American Tuscarora king of the Turkey clan called Chief Tamaqua, or Tamaqua, as they would say. For Tamaqua, the three rivers flow through it. From the north, the Little Schuylkill River, the Panther Creek to the east, and the Wabash to the west. I always remember my Uncle Shill joking with me when I was younger. He said, "Now that wasn't where the name came from. It came from the rivers." Tamaqua translated to the town of running water. And then he would whisper in my ear, he goes, "That means everybody has leaky toilets." So, but it was always his way to joke around with me. I think I'll go with the Native American version. I think that's probably the most true. So Tamaqua is located in eastern Schuylkill County in the heart of the coal region. The closest town and cities are Hazleton to the north, Pottsville, the county seat, to the west, Jim Thorpe, historically known as Mock Chunk, and that lies to the east, and to the south is Reading and Allentown. Being at the base of the Pocono Mountains, it was in the middle of four distinct mountain ranges known as the Nesquehoning, Locust, Sharp, and Pisgah Mountains. And in this picture right here, this would be the Sharp and the Pisgah, and then behind it would be the other two mountains, the Nesquehoning and Locust Mountains. Also, Tamaqua has some unique features. One of the things you can see to the very left here is this high-rise building, which is a 15-story high-rise, which is one of the tallest buildings in Tamaqua, or number of stories of any building in Schuylkill County, I should say. All right. So the first settlers, the early documents called the Tamaqua settlement the Panther Valley, as it was settled by Burkhart Moser Jr. in 1799, following the Revolutionary War. His cabin was built along his sawmill business, and then he took 400 acres in the surrounding area. At that time, you just went up and you staked your claim. So with the water from the rivers and creeks, he had an ideal location for logging and farming. The cabin still stands today in the east end of town, behind some homes on what is known as the Main Street, or Broad Street. It is a registered historical site, and during certain events, it's open to the public for viewing, with several other historical places, such as Haggerty Blacksmith Shop, American Hose Fire Company, and various hotels, and of course, Tamaqua's railroad station itself. In 1870, Burkhart Moser and his son Jacob discovered anthracite coal, and soon the Renaissance began with the formation later of a coal town that would one day support between 21,000 and 12,500 people. With today, that number holds at about 7,000 who live in the town. Many of them miners and supporting businesses that help shape the Tamaqua community. first sales of some of the coal was to supporting businesses for shops, and until the age of rail, it did start moving. It did start moving after that to the Reading and Philly and to the east to New York. Tamaqua did try to move through the canal system or the rivers at one time using the Schuylkill River, and the use of the canals with flat bottom boats. Thus, the formation between Tamaqua and Reading is a town called Port Clinton. That's one of the first early ports, so they would try to get it down there, and then the water was a little bit deeper. But soon that was doomed to fail due to things like there wasn't enough rain to keep the river flowing heavy enough, and then the move forward to the rail system kind of put an end to the barge system that they were looking to put in. So what they had to do is the rail lines would run along the rivers in all directions to help the rail lines formation to supply Reading with coal and steel, heating, electric power, and even supply coal during World War II. Or sorry, during the Civil War. So here's a few examples of one of them that stood out to me is the location to the most left, and this one here was about Tamaqua constable who was murdered on July 6th in 1875 as he climbed the ladder to extinguish the street lamp. Alleged murderers of the Molly Maguires were convicted of the murder and hanged 2 years later for Yost's murder. It was even portrayed in a movie called The Molly Maguires. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it, but it's one of my favorite movies starring Sean Connery. And there was a segment in there of the gun battle and murder of Constable Yost. And then also there's a neat football game that goes in there between Tamaqua and Muck Chunk before it became Jim Thorpe. If you didn't know too, Molly Maguire was an Irish widow in the 1840s who led a group of agitators to protest English landlords who had been stealing their lands. So crossing into Tamaqua, you would find the 5 Points intersection. Okay, so you would enter Tamaqua and go over the Schuylkill River right here. And as you get to the 5 Points, what stands out as you head north is the Flatiron Building. And this was always, I thought, a neat building by even today's standards. It's one of those V-shaped triangular buildings, used to host a number of different everything from a children's store to hotels, a diner, things like that. Over the years, several businesses passed through it. And today they have the bottom section up for rent, but there's still some apartments upstairs. And as I mentioned, Haggerty's blacksmith shop, that was in use until the early 1960s as an active blacksmith shop. Things like that I don't have included here is the Tamaqua Armory, which is another great historical building. And Tamaqua was one of the early cities to adopt electrical incandescent lighting throughout the town. It had a trolley system that went from one side of town to the other side, about a half mile. And again, the Tamaqua train station. If anybody would ever have any interest in reading, there's a couple good books that are out there. One called The Iron Steps by Donald or Donnie Searfoss. And you could get that for about $20 on eBay. And then one that's out of circulation for a long time, but one of my favorites, it was written by the minister of my church, Reverend Milton Detterline, and that can be found on eBay. And that's a little pricey today, $80. I think I have it somewhere in my mom's attic, but I have to go back and take a look sometime. So let's go to 18252. That's my home zip code, and for the house of Zippy. So the post office is where I stopped when I was a lot younger, and I used to go in there, and they used to pull apart plate blocks for me and stuff like that, or individual stamps in the late 60s and early 70s when I started my collection. I would save my allowance of birthday money and snow shoveling purchases, stuff like that, so that I could go in there and buy the stamps that I wanted. One of my good friends growing up with, he also collected, and his father worked in the post office. So he would always keep us apprised of, some of the good stamps that were coming out and things like that when I was a kid. If you're ever in Tamaqua, if you can, take a stop. I love this post office. I always thought it was really cool when I was growing up with its majestic Doric or Greek columns, as you can see here on the outside, and the lamp poles that they have out here. So again, another picture of the post office from the outside, and then an artist's rendition of it in the postcard down below. And you can see the postmaster's office going in. So this just gives you a little picture of the inside. I forgot to take a picture of the brass mail lock boxes and the old roll top windows and stuff. It's definitely a historic building. I'd love to go up to the to buy stamps and stuff like that, and there was a counter with the glass top with all either stamps would be underneath, or things about the post office, and then had your scale to weigh out your envelopes if you needed to mail them out. I always remember that scale from my Cub Scout days, because we all ran down there and we took our Pinewood Derby cars to weigh them out to make sure they were under the 5 ounces that they needed to be in order to run. And then if we were a little heavy, we'd have to go home and shave a little bit down and then go back down and weigh it again. But it was only a couple blocks from my house. So the day of the stamp event, I stopped in the post office and got my first cancellation. There's a picture right in the middle of that cancellation. It's not the official cancellation. This is unofficial, but it was on that day with that stamp, and it was actually a cachet that I had done. I did several of them, for this event. So, and here's a couple of the cancellations that I did. Everything from postcards to photographs that I took in many of the cases for the Tamaqua ones, and then some of them that I was able to download and add for like the Cincinnati Union Terminal. All right, and this just a little postal history. There was a big cornerstone. I just wanted to find out a little bit about that. So Ogden Mills. So upon the recommendation of President Calvin Coolidge, and in his administration, he appointed Ogden, who was the Undersecretary of the Treasury in 1927, was tasked to establish new post offices across the U.S. So much of the responsibility for the Treasury Department was put on Mills as designated by the Congress at that time. He continued as Undersecretary under President Hoover's administration, during which the dominant issue there was post-World War I reconstruction of Europe and German American funding agreements of the 1930s. So under these agreements, what they were supposed to cover was costs suffered by the American military and citizens during World War II. Interesting. I think it was last month or the month before, we had a great presentation about the German hyperinflation during the 1920s and 1930s, and the price and how the prices of stamps went up so many marks over the years, and a lot of these things kind of go together. And then to the right is Alphonso Westmore, who was the American lawyer and an administrator, best known for acting supervisor of architect for the U.S. Office of the Supervising Architects of the Treasury Department from 1915 through 1933. Westmore was frequently described incorrectly as an architect of many of the federal buildings that bear his name. He was a longtime civil servant in the Treasury Department, but he was not a professional architect. He was the supervising architect. He managed the staff of nearly 1,700 architects and draftsmen who designed at least 2,000 federal government buildings, including courthouses and post offices. So if you see his name on there, it will say acting supervising architect, but he was not the architect. And there's probably a lot of these buildings out there today. Okay, for the train event, this is a big event for the Tamaqua area, and I'll be sharing some photos of the event. There were more than 500 people in attendance to mark this stamp issuance. The Tamaqua Post Office released 2,800 stamps from the postal from the office that day, and they did a lot of cancellations, both in red and black cancellation stamps, using the Tamaqua cancellation stamp. The station is a full-service restaurant. It's a visitor center, gift shop, museum, tour stop for many train excursions running out of Reading to Jim Thorpe and to Pittston, Pennsylvania. So a little bit about the station. It's 1 out of 5 stations selected for the stamp release. The Tamaqua station is the only one that does not have an active train schedule. At one time, it was a starting and ending point for families who saw their loved ones heading off to war. It was a whistle stop for presidential candidates during the early 1900s. One time, the station hosted more than 40 passenger trains a day. The train passengers last run was in 1963, and soon after, they started to rip up the westbound line to Pottsville, but kept the line to Reading and Philadelphia and north to Pittston and Williamsport, along with Jim Thorpe. Today, the station serves a restaurant with 3 separate dining room areas, a full-service bar, visitor center, gift shop. It's also a stop now for those train excursions that I mentioned before, with the other stop to Port Clinton that I mentioned earlier. In the fall, they also run those trips up to Pittston. So some beautiful country when they run these train excursions. Okay, inside, I think it's a beautiful building. Here's an example of before and after at the top and bottom of the postcard and the picture. You can see the gardens that used to surround it at one time, but it has a full service bar. You can see the dining area where you would go in and sit in the center, and then where they have the wine rack there, they have a full service kitchen in the back. So at one time in 1847, the Philadelphia Railroad built this Victorian style station, and then replaced an earlier station which had been destroyed by fire. Okay, and here you can see, on the outside edges here are some photographs of the work that they did to reconstruct it, but you can see how it fell into disrepair over the years on the outside. And then finally they formed what's called Tamaqua SOS, or Save Our Station. So the Save Our Station came up with grants and funding to keep it alive and revive it from a fire that had happened and a wall falling from decay. And today you can take a look at how it kind of fell in disrepair and where it is today. So I think they did a pretty nice job. And then the old station I'm sure was beautiful in its own rights. It was definitely a Victorian era, and it was a large means of transportation for a lot of people. People don't have cars. Everything was kind of horse and buggies for the most part. So you had to take the train to get from point A to point B. All right, and then if you go inside, you can take a look. There were a lot of renovations: the fireplace, the ceilings, lights, the towers. It's hard to see it here, but if you would ever get in there, you could see the glass. They had the separate waiting areas. For men, that's where they would go, and they would be able to smoke and drink. And for the women were always shuffled off to their own area with the children to wait for the next train. So And then here's one of a mention of the stamp event for the night. So they released the stamp and the train station, and they had complimentary hors d'oeuvres, and they concluded the event with a champagne toast. So here it was a pretty special day with that no one ever could have predicted, said Dave Argo, our state senator, on Thursday ceremony. Dave spoke about the efforts to restore the station in the 1990s, noting that the state and federal grants, along with donations and fundraising, which saved the building from bulldozers. This is truly an initiative that united the whole community. It helped spur a lot of revitalization, and as you can see, in the last 20 years, Argo said the restoration and prevailing thought in Tamaqua at that time was it could never be done. But through the efforts of a number of people, they were able to make this happen. So if you go inside the station, about 500, like I said, packed the bar area, main lobby, the dining rooms. I'm glad the fire marshal wasn't there because it was definitely crowded. Here's a photo here on the right. On the left of that photo, you can see yours truly here. I'm there with my Viant jacket on. So then Dave Argo, our senior state senator, he spoke. Dave covers northern Berks County, Schuylkill County, and Luzerne County, and he was the MC who led off the introductions for the event, and a little bit more about the train station. Dave has always been a strong supporter ever since I've known him. So, and then again, they had some speeches, and the Tamaqua postmaster, she's there on the right, Beth Trexler. She helped set up the cancellation station with the restaurant after hours with USPS volunteers who could cancel the stamps on site in the station. As Beth noted today, it symbolizes the past and remains a present-day marvel of Tamaqua's community to continue to enjoy. She said the selection of stamps for the stamp series, which Tamaqua is part of, looked at historic stations in large cities and small towns with specific focus on stations people could visit. Even the Dairy Queen was able to make it, and the Snowflake Princess to help celebrate with us. Okay, and just having a little bit of celebration with everybody and a couple of my friends from my high school class. And if you ever visit the station, throughout time, it hosted stops for celebrities like Jimmy Dorsey and his band and other big bands from the 40s and 50s. Even Doris Day had her picture taken outside while waiting for the next train to take her to Barnesville, where she would sing at what was called Lakeside Park or Lakeside, or heading back down south to Reading or Philadelphia. In the restaurant, you'll find photos of her hanging from one of the many trips that after she had sung at either Lakeside or was going up there to sing. Or maybe you can even have your picture taken with another modern day celebrity like Nick Toro from Blue Bloods or NYPD Blue. Here's a picture with him with my mom, who this past summer was at the restaurant, and she recognized him right away and had her picture taken with him. Tamaqua has a lot of progressive things going on with it right now. They have a large motion film location opening up which is called the Tamaqua Studio, a division of Outhouse Productions, who just invested $3 million in an office location in downtown. And they're looking to build an $18 million large motion picture campus in the Tamaqua area with 3 green screens, one of them to be said to be as large as a football field. All right. So the next stop is Cincinnati, Ohio. So Cincinnati, Ohio's Art Deco structure is among 5 stations nationwide to include special runs of railroad station stamps. The first day of issue ceremony was held March 9th at Union Terminal at 11 a.m. This spectacular Art Deco Union Terminal opened in Cincinnati at the height of the Great Depression in early 1933. The Ohio municipality had become an industrial commercial center by the 1900s, as well as the country's 10th largest city and a major gateway for transfer points for rail passengers traveling between much of the Midwest and the South. The New York architect Alfred Fellmer and Stuart Wagner devised a design that mirrored the prosperity and optimism of the 1920s and came up with a half dome rising from the base of the plaza to an interior majestic, celebrating the city's important industries. However, soon after the construction kicked off in August 1929, the Wall Street crash came about, and Union Terminal would be among one of the last train stations that would be built during the rail era. Designed for 260 trains per day, the station was welcoming just a handful at the time of its closure in 1972. But then the city renovated it and reopened it in the 1990s as Cincinnati's Museum Center, and the next year Amtrak restored passenger and rail service there. Union Terminal has always been an integral part of the Cincinnati community for 9 decades, and will be and with the release of the commemorative stamps, it would reintroduce as a local treasure. All right. So here's a picture of the outside as a stamp. And Elizabeth Pierce, CEO of the Cincinnati Museum Center, housed in Union Terminal, gave a brief history of Union Terminal and spoke on its continued significance, adding to the 1930s and how it marked 90 years since the building opened. Hamilton County Commissioner President Alicia Reese then talked about the buildings, how the building continues to connect people today. Before the digital unveiling of the stamp dedications, Daniel Tangarlili of the U.S. Postal Service Board of Governors drew attention to Ohio's recent train derailment in the Springfield and East Palestine, and said the need for safety was front and center as a primary concern of the U.S. Postal Service. And here's another picture of the inside and outside, a historical picture of the station. Since opening in 1933, Union Terminal has had a long story, from welcoming soldiers home from World War II to becoming the home of 3 museums, an Omnimax theater, and Cincinnati's historical library and archives. At one time, it did host the post office inside the building, but over time and due to budgeting, it was removed. And here's the cancellation station that they had set up for the event, with the official cancellation that they were putting on covers for the day. And another picture of that. All right, and now I have just a little video clip of the ceremony. I think this is the right one. No. Ah, there it is. And for some of these, we might have just a minute of commercials. We just got to work through.
We're here for a dedication ceremony for 5 new Great Forever stamps that are celebrating the heritage of historic train stations here in the United States. And we're celebrating them here in the Cincinnati Union Terminal because this is one of the 5 featured stamps.
Train travel represents a great deal of history, especially for this community. We had a post office in Union Terminal. They used to take mail from here down to the main post office.
I just actually came from the 99th birthday celebration of my dad, and he said when he served in World War II, he came through the Cincinnati terminal for some training he took here in Cincinnati. So if you think about this place as a connection to our history, some of the most meaningful events in the history, you think about the importance of railroads in building the country we have today. It's a great event, and it's a great way of celebrating that history.
You see that little piece of artwork on a letter, and it's just fascinating to see and wonder where that goes, and wonder what that represents, and all the wonderful things it represents. And we have an incredible philatelic history.
I'll have to reach out to Cliff
the
and
United States Post Office.
see if I can get him to join one of our
Encourage people
meetings.
to write letters, right? So, and this is a great way to celebrate the stamp and write a letter.
First day of issue, it gets a special cancellation, which I'm in line for. So there you go. But it is, and it just shows where you were once again.
And there's history in writing a letter. I have all of the letters that my grandfather sent to my grandmother during World War II. I have all the original stamps, and the letters are just beautiful. So email wouldn't have been able to do that, you know. So we always want to celebrate the Postal Service, writing letters, and buying stamps.
All right. So next, all aboard for Point of Rocks, Maryland. This station is about 30 miles outside of Silver Spring, Maryland, and is part of the Baltimore and Ohio or B&O rail system. U.S. Postage Service Post Office operations, Dion Ashley, will lead a stamp unveiling along with the Montgomery Preservation Incorporated and other invited guests. The Point of Rock station was completed in 1876 and was designed by renowned architect E. Francis Baldwin, who would construct a number of stations and depots for the B&O, particularly along the eastern areas of the railroad. So they had a separate opening on their own, and I'm not quite sure why they did this. It may have been due to COVID or something else, but they had theirs on April 1st. So theirs was a little delayed, but they still canceled on that date. And here's a photo of how they handled the cancellation station right there. And I just have a little clip of that one. Bring that guy down, and we'll play that. Can you hear it?
My name is Dion Ashley.
Okay.
I'm the manager of post office operation in the Maryland district. I'm in charge of zip code 208 and 209. I'm happy to be here on behalf of the United States Postal Service. The Postal Service has long celebrated our nation heritage through its stamp program. We continue that tradition with this new Forever stamp honoring 5 historic railroad stations that have played an important role in our nation development and recognitions today for their architectural brilliance. All 5 of these features are on our stamps, are listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Each stamp is in a pane of 20 and its illustration in a single station. the 1874 Tamaqua Station in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania, the 1875 Point of Rock Station in Point Rock, Maryland, the 1901 Main Street Station in Richmond, Virginia, the 1918 Santa Fe Station in San Bernardino, California, 1933 Union Terminal Station in Cincinnati, Ohio. They are available at the museum and online USPS.com and at post office nationwide. We are pleased to present the 2023 Forever Stamp honoring America Historic Railroad Station and our very own Point Rock Railroad Station. Thank you.
So next stop, Richmond Main Street Station. Okay, one of the most iconic pieces of the Richmond architecture and one of the city's most widely recognizable landmarks is the Main Street Station, as it has been chosen to be a feature on these 2023 postal stamps. It's located in the heart of the downtown Richmond area on Main Street, and it was completed in 1901. And it underwent over $95 million in renovations decades later. The Main Street Station was damaged by a fire in '76, and it followed other damage by another blaze in 1983. Before returning to limited passenger service in 2003, the station housed the mall, nightclub, and even offices. The station served over almost 75,000 residents in 1922, riders in 1922 with 6 daily state-supported Amtrak trains. Main Street Station is also home of dozens of weddings, wine expos, inaugurations, and conventions, and much more. Okay, the event in Richmond, dignitaries from the Postal Service in Richmond all took part in the celebration. And I do have a little clip on that guy. Let me pull this one down.
To some of the nation's most historic train stations, and that includes a new stamp featuring an iconic Richmond Railroad terminal. CBS 6's Bree Season is at Main Street Station and joins us live to fill us in on the story. Bree?
It is a high honor for our beloved landmark. Check it out, a beautiful new stamp design along with 4 other stations across the country as part of the new railroad station stamp designs. Main Street Station was built in 1901. It's called an architectural gem by the post office, saying railroads represent progress and movement. These buildings in Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and California.
Come on. Was it counting on that? See, we gotta wait 30 seconds. They jumped this in on me. I played without it before.
Told countless stories of people leaving for and arriving at new adventures, creating businesses, or welcoming old friends. Main Street Station and the others depicted are all listed on the National Register of Historic Places. In celebration of the new stamp collection, one of the area's top public works managers said since the early 90s, some $96 million in grants have gone into making Main Street Station the iconic landmark you see today.
For a city, it's world class. I always say it's our Big Ben, and it's our Eiffel Tower as you go down 95. Your affiliation with Richmond is this structure. 65 million cars surrounded every year, and it is the last piece of glamorous architecture from here to Miami on I-95. For the U.S. Postal Service to recognize this is huge.
Huge indeed. These railroad station stamps are on sale now at USPS. That's the best place to get them. $12.60 will get you a sheet of 20 stamps. We're hearing already that on the second day of release, some local post offices are already sold out of these sheets. So be sure to check out USPS.com. One note though, you'll have to get a sheet. You can't just buy a sheet of only Main Street station. You're going to have to buy all of the stations in that sheet of 20. In Richmond, Bree Season, CBS 6 News.
All right. So they had their own cancellation station set up there. You can get, I think it was probably a local, or maybe they at that time, so it was the day after they were able to get the full stamp to cancel them out. Okay. And then the last stop is San Bernardino. Okay. This station served the Santa Fe line as a major stop through the West. It opened in 1918. San Bernardino Spanish Mission Revival Station was at the time the largest train station west of the Mississippi River. Restored in the early 2000s by the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. The depot now serves Metro Line and Amtrak for passenger service and hosts permanent displays on railroad history. The depot serves as a major passenger station for bus lines as well, supporting the local communities. And then I couldn't find anything on the San Bernardino celebration for the stamp release, but just thought I'd share this video clip of San Bernardino train station. This came kind of from one of their bicentennials, and I thought this was kind of interesting. Just shows you a little bit about the station and the station line.
1928. It has been a wonderful experience to take this train from Los Angeles Union Station to our historic depot. We have our wonderful 110-mile-an-hour high-speed 1928 Baldwin 484 engine on display. This is the Baldwin Philadelphia 3751 Santa Fe. Beautiful train, guaranteed. Chicago to LA, 39 and a half hours.
This is where my dad and mom would bring us on any weekend evening just to watch the trains come in and out. And it was a glorious day. That was back in the 30s, early 40s.
Folks, the moment has arrived. The 3751 is on its way here to the Santa Fe Depot. Let's get a chance to see all the reactions when it comes into the station.
San Bernardino's got a great history of railroad, and we're here to celebrate it today. We're really trying to show the history of San Bernardino has a railroad, and now the past, present, and future of San Bernardino will be based on the railroads as well.
City of San Bernardino, as it celebrates 200 years of history, has had many faces. It's been the home to royalty as well as Hollywood's elite up at Arrowhead Springs, to our patriotism that has been Norton Air Force Base. But the backbone that has been the city of San Bernardino has been its people and its railways. So today we celebrate 200 years here at the Santa Fe Railway, City of San Bernardino on Inland Empire Media Group.
So 3751 is the historic San Bernardino steam engine. It used to be on display here in San Bernardino, and now it's on display out in LA. It's got a great history here, and we're really excited to have 3751 out here today, be able to show it for all of the people like me and the younger folks who didn't really get a chance to see it when it was here back in the day.
Those sounds, those grunts and groans of that engine are the sounds of history. That's our city's history. That has been the city of transportation, and it will be in the future.
As we wrap up Rail Days here in the bicentennial celebration for the city of San Bernardino, it has truly been a great example of both the city, the people, the vendors, the exhibits, the great museum, and all taking place down here at the Santa Fe Museum. As we wrap up a bicentennial celebration, we're reminded that not only is it the people, but the railways that are the true backbone of the city as it celebrates 200 years. We celebrated here today, all part of Railways and the city of San Bernardino's bicentennial celebration.
All right. So moving on, okay, here's a picture of their early railroad station, and this was actually hit by a fire, but they went and they rebuilt it with the four dome structure. And here's an early postcard that I found with a picture of the early station that was on there. So for first day covers, you can see there's a lot of different designs that are out there, and I know that this is one of the things that I like first day covers, and always looking for some interesting things. What really caught my attention is the one in the middle, which is somebody took an atlas and made it into an envelope, and then ended up having it sent for cancellation. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then some other ones, you have the Three Stooges and Charlie Chaplin, and a couple of other ones that are in there. And then the ones on the other side are some caches that I got commercially, so, or on eBay. And then for stamps, if you want to focus on collecting train stamps, boy, you could go on almost forever. I mean, there's just tons and tons of train stations. Not a whole lot of train stations domestically, but foreign. The East Germans were always big on their train stations, and also Russia, China, all of them have stamps out on their stations and stuff like that. Almost every country in the world had trains. You know, you go to Africa, you go South and Central America. It was always a main way to get to move around. There weren't really roads, but there were rail lines out there for people to move on. And then for you rail fanners, if you ever get a chance, there's a mail train car down in Nashville, okay, that you can visit, and it really looks beautiful on the inside and out. You can see the bins set up there, the tables, the mail bags and things like that. This was part of the L&N rail system, and it was actually refreshed up in the National Historic Restoration Shop in Scranton at Steamtown. If you ever have a chance to get up in the Scranton area, Steamtown, it's something to see up there. I used to live up that way, so I've toured it, and they offer excursions as well out of Steamtown at certain times of the year. For those folks that had worked in the mailroom, as you can see in the middle picture there, you know, if you go back into 1832, the postal clerks who rode the mail lines did so under life-threatening conditions. Ever present were the dual dangers of robberies and wrecks. You know, they were actually kind of like banks and supported the postal service all in one in some cases. So, and then if you're ever in the Tamaqua area, hey, go visit the train station and look across the tracks, and you'll see there's an important message there. Coal picking is prohibited, so don't be taking any coal off the ground. But one time that was a real thing. You know, if you were caught on the rail lines, you would be arrested or be in big trouble for taking coal. So, I think that's the end of my presentation. Any questions or that I can try to answer?
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Very good.
I really enjoyed your presentation, Don. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I like the way you used the videos too to illustrate it.
Yeah, yeah, it was fun. It was fun learning about this whole thing. I mean, I was able to participate in the Tamaqua one, and I was there and I saw that one. But to go and see how others were doing it, I thought was also very cool. And then just finding out about about those stations. At some time, I would like to see them. But I think from the standpoint, I think they made some good choices. So
yes, it was a nice little journey.
yeah.
Questions, anybody?
May I add a little to Don's presentation?
Sure.
Don, I have a little bit of information, if you wouldn't mind letting me do a very short, it should only take a minute or two, screen save or screen sharing. I have a family connection to Tamaqua, and thank you. So let me see if I pull this up. And I'm having some trouble here. I'm clicking on share screen, share desktop, and it says open screen preferences, security and privacy to grant access. And I'm trying to see, there it is. Sorry, I haven't done this in a long time. And I had some.
Blame it on COVID.
I wonder if it didn't release mine. Because I have this weird screen. Okay, maybe it did now.
Okay, let's try again. Let's see that. I guess it won't release it. I guess I'll have to do it just out loud and then send it to you so you might like it. I've been doing some genealogical research, and my family originally came from Great Britain to Massachusetts, and 6 generations ago, Isaac Hinckley moved from Massachusetts to Tamaqua. And when I checked some documents about Isaac